In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how I got Empire at War running from this to this. On average, a 5 times increase on FPS in performance, and it was all done with just one click of a button. Your mileage may vary, however. Some people will see a performance boost, while others might think it's actually worse, and for the unlucky few, you may crash. But because it is so easy to revert back to your original settings with just one click, it's definitely worth giving it a go. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how you can get this FPS increase, what problems were solved in my copy of Empire at War by doing this, and the technical side of why this is such a dramatic change with just one button click. So without any further ado, let's jump right into the video. So here we are in a standard game of Empire at War Remake. So the reason we're using this mod in particular compared to other Empire at War mods is because the effects of what this change does is the most greatest in Empire at War Remake compared to Awakening Rebellion and Thrawn's Revenge. It's still very effective in those mods, more so than what you'd get with the older mods like Republic at War and Yodin mod. But Remake, because it's so graphically intensive, it just has a much greater effect on what we're trying to do today. So, checking out the FPS on what we're running on right now, we have a massive Empire War Remake EcksToo Super Star Destroyer, some standard Star Destroyers, Thrawn's Victory, so on and so forth. We're running at about 19 to 20 FPS, according to Steam's FPS counter in the top right there. Now, if I go into double speed, as you know, the FPS drops significantly. We drop down to about 6 FPS there, almost slower than actually going at normal speeds. So, to get about 5 times more FPS from one click of a button sounds quite strange, but believe me or not, it actually happens. So, if we go ahead and demonstrate it to you on what actually happens, you go to Escape, you go to the main menu, you go to Options, you go to Video, and then you see a setting here called Hardware Mouse. Now, hovering over it, it says, check this to use a hardware mouse cursor. A hardware mouse cursor is smoother and more responsive. Now, in the settings, that is actually true. Having this enabled means that you can move your mouse outside of the window and it reacts accordingly. So if you want to try, if you're running in windowed mode, for instance, and you want to close the app down or minimize it, you can actually get your mouse into that windowed area and click the button accordingly. Same with going to your task bar in Windows 10 and moving over to your second monitor. But disabling it means that this mouse is actually locked within the game itself. So it can be quite jarring trying to close or minimize the game unless you actually tab out or close it from Steam. So we know what FPSs we were running before. I'm going to uncheck this, click apply, and click accept. Now, coming back into the game, as you can tell, we're running very, very smooth here, almost over 100 FPS in some cases, 80 to 107 FPS on average. So a lot more smoother. And if I go ahead and start moving a ship and go into double time, you can see the lag completely gone. It's performing so much more faster for me, and it's running at about 30 FPS compared to 6 when we were in double time. So why is this happening? Why doesn't it happen work for everyone? And why am I getting such a big effect from this? So what it essentially is I passed this question over to a lot of Empire War mods, modders like Thrawn's Revenge, Awakening Rebellion, even Remake, asking, why does this happen? And the general idea or answer I got back from them was that it was essentially Empire at War wasn't the best optimized game back in 2006. And that's a fair assumption, but there was no technical reason behind it. So after a bit of research and speaking to even more people about the matter, hardware mouse is where the CPU is trying to emulate the Windows 10 mouse inside the Empire at War environment and outside at the same time. So as we all know, an old game like Empire at War, being built in 2006, doesn't have hyperthreading, which allows the game to run on multiple CPU cores. It only runs off one. So to get the best performance from Empire at War, you need to have a high gigahertz CPU. Doesn't matter how many cores it has, it needs to have a high clock count, because that's what it uses for a lot of the AI, Pathfinding, it's all CPU dependent, not GPU. Empire War Remake, sure, it's a lot more graphically heavy. You're going to need a better GPU, but most everything else is CPU bound. So having that, as well as trying to emulate the Windows 10 mouse in a much more graphically intensive game, thanks to modders increasing the poly counts and so on and so forth, there's a lot of actions going on in one CPU, which can cause a lot of power withdrawal from one core in the CPU, overheating issues, and just generally the CPU choking on and bottlenecking on one core. For me personally, you've probably seen in previous videos, or even in this video as I record it, where I get static effects going off from my mic, and OBS disconnecting or freezing when I'm trying to actually record a video. It actually happened while I was trying to record this video. This is my second take. I wondered why this was all happening and why it was only happening in Empire War. And the reality is my CPU just couldn't do it. And I'm running a Ryzen, I think it's a Ryzen 5 7000X or whatever. It's something on those regions. It's very, very good CPU, high end. And even then it was struggling. So if I'm struggling with my setup, imagine like how it would be on even slower computers and how much this could work for you. Now, again, this won't work for everyone. It is on a case-by-case basis. I've heard some people see absolutely no change in their FPS. I've seen people have the same effect I do, and some people just crash and it doesn't work without it. So your mileage will vary in this setting. So again, the reason I'm making this video is because I was going to make this video before I actually had the answer. And it was all about how I found it very strange that the game would run really fast when I moved my mouse down, like so, and then the FPS dramatically increased. If I did it by using my arrow keys or WASD keys, like so, it wouldn't work. But if I dragged my mouse down, it did. So that's what got me asking the questions to those Empire War developers, like, why is this happening? And how could we capitalize on this? When in reality, what was happening, as I mentioned earlier, the mouse was outside of the Empire War environment. So once the mouse was no longer in my Empire War window, it no longer had to emulate the mouse in hardware mouse in the game, which meant it could focus on the game itself, which gave me a big FPS bump. And that's where this video was actually going to originate from. So thank God we found that answer today, really. Well, a couple of days ago. And it's completely changed my Empire War experience. My FPS is better than ever. Empire War Remake, which is a game I've always lagged on whenever I played this. And I've had a lot of computer upgrades since I last played it, and I'm still lagging. It's now buttery smooth, and I can't believe it. So again, like it's really, really big change for me. What I did notice as well is that the effects only get greater the longer campaigns go for, or longer online skirmishes go for, because the FPS or the frames that are being rendered per tick from the CPU decreases over time. I don't know if it's because the game is getting more intensive, the AI is having to think of a lot more things to do, so on and so forth. It's all sorts. So it gets better over time, because I remember some of my campaigns just being borderline unplayable in the late game. So to see this be running this smoothly, and to still run this smooth in the later stages of my campaigns is amazing. It really, really is. But yeah, I'm gonna pass the question over to you guys on this one as well, because I'm curious about if you have this turned off or not. I know this is a very common, knowledgeable thing among many Empire War veterans, but for a lot of you who have just started playing the game in the past 12 months, maybe even 24 months, have you turned this setting off? Did you realize this setting existed? And most importantly, if you do it yourself, what performance gains did you get? Was it even more than mine, or was it actually slower? That the game was running worse when you disabled it? Let me know in the comments down below, because I'm really curious about your experiences of turning off this setting and turning it back on. So let me know. And finally, before I end this video off, I'm gonna actually pass you over to my first reaction, realizing that this solved all of my problems in OBS, my mic, and Empire at War. So enjoy that video, and I'll see you in the next video on EcksToo.
Do you want to go to another game mode?
No, I need to show you this. This is how big of a deal it is, right? So look how things are moving. Look how things are moving with the hard mouse on.
With the hard mouse, yeah. Charlie's got
Options,
a hard mouse.
Game, nope. Video, hardware mouse on, apply. Look how awful this is. I've been playing like this for 3 years, Corey. I've been playing.
You've been playing with the fucking shitty ass mouse flickering for 3 years.
For 3 years.
Oh, you fucking yeah.
And now options, video, hardware mouse off. Are you serious? This was 3 years of this.
Why did you play Empire at War?
I was gonna make a video on this.
Why did you not uninstall the fucking game?
Bro, I'm so
Did you think that this was just how people fucking lived all the time?
I was like, great game, Corey, but man, the FPS is shit. I genuinely thought it's just my PC, and this is why I upgraded so many parts of my PC. Spent hundreds of pounds. I'm like, why is it not getting any better?
Are you serious, dude? Are you actually fucking joking?
Have you always had the crackling with Empire at War videos?
Yes, and I've had to painstakingly edit out the static in a lot of my videos.
My god, why the fuck did you bother playing this fucking game?
The fuck is this?